at another example. Josh wants to determine the number of loaves he can bake, the number of loaves of bread he can bake using 14 2/3 cups of flour. If each loaf requires 3 3/5 cups of flour, how many loaves can Josh bake? So again, think about what we have here. We have a total amount of flour. We have a key word, each. So we know each loaf requires 13 3/5 cups. So if our total amount of flour, the total that we have, is 14 2/3 cups, as soon as we make one loaf of bread, we've used 3 3/5 cups. If we make another loaf of bread, we've used another 3 3/5 cups. If we make another loaf of bread, we've used another 3 3/5 cups. We want to know how many of each 3 3/5 cup sections do we have in the total amount of flour that we have in the house. So what operation would this be? It would be division. We're going to take the total, 14 2/3, and we are going to divide it by 3 3/5. When you're dividing, anywhere you see a mixed number, you have to convert it to an improper fraction. So 14 times 3 is 42 plus 2 is 44. So 44, keep the denominator 3. Divided by 3 3/5. So we multiply 5 times 3 and add 3 to get the numerator of our improper fraction. You multiply, then add, and that gives you the numerator of your improper fraction. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 plus 3 is 18, and 18 over 5. Keep the denominator. Now we need to divide these fractions. So 44 over 3. To divide, you multiply by the reciprocal, and that is 5 over 18. Well, we do have a common factor in 44 and 18, so I can simplify before I multiply because these are both divisible by 2. When I divide by 2, I get 9. When I divide by 2, I get 22. Now I can multiply straight across. 22 times 5 is 110. And 9 times 3 is 27. Now I can divide 110 by 27. 27 times 4 is 108. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. So I'm going to use 4. 27 times 4 is 108. Subtract, and I have 2 left over. So 4 and 2 27ths would be the answer to our division problem. Now go back and look at the question here. How many loaves can Josh bake? Well, can Josh bake 2 27ths of a loaf of bread? No. So we would say Josh can bake 4 loaves. Will he have just a little bit of flour left over? Yes, not much, not enough to make another loaf of bread, so he can only make 4 loaves of bread. Again, be careful. These are not the answers to the questions on your quizzes. I've changed the numbers. All right, let's look at one more example. This is one of the examples that has multiple steps to it. I've put some words here in bold. So if you have already finished 2/5 of the 45 math problems he was assigned today, just reading that first sentence, do you know what operation you would use to figure out how many problems you finished? What's your key word in that first sentence that tells you what operation to use? 2/5 of the 45 math problems. Of means multiply, so that would be 2/5 times 45. If I wanted to know how many problems I finished. Each problem took 1 3/5 of a minute to complete. Each problem, every single problem he does takes 1 3/5 of a minute. If this pace continues, meaning that every problem is going to continue taking him 1 3/5 of a minute, how much more time to the nearest minute will the rest of the problems take him to finish? Will the rest of the problems, so in the first sentence they told me how many problems he's completed. If he's completed 2/5 of the problems, that's how much he's done already. And 5/5, or all, 5/5 would be all of the problems. What would be left to represent how many he has remaining, how many he has left to do? 2/5 plus 3/5 is what gives us how many he has left to do. So we're actually not even going to use 2/5 in this problem because we're trying to figure out how many he has left so that we know how many problems he has to do. So he has to do 3/5 of the 45 problems on the test, 3/5 of 45. The word of here is going to mean multiply. And again, the order for multiplication, I can do it in either order. So I could say 45 times 3/5. And this is how I figure out the total number of problems that you have left to complete. Now, then it gives me how much time each problem takes. And this may confuse you because you see that keyword each, but because we have a total number of problems and we have amount of time per problem, we are actually going to multiply the number of problems times the amount of time each problem takes me to complete, so that I'm left with just the amount of time. And this has a lot to do with your units. So problems, and then we know that each problem takes a certain amount of time. So the number of problems I have left times the amount of time each problem takes is how I would come up with my solution here. So I would work first with how many problems do I have left to do. So 45 times 3/5. I'm going to simplify first because 45 and 5 are both divisible by 5. So that tells me I have 27 problems left to do. So multiplication is repeated addition. Each of those 27 problems will take me 1 3/5 minutes. So it's like I'm adding 1 3/5 27 times, but that would be time consuming. So repeated addition, anywhere you would add over and over and over, is the same concept as multiplication. So 27 times 1 3/5. Again, I'm going to have to turn this into a improper fraction. How do I do that? I start and I multiply 5 times 1 and then I add 3. So 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 over 5 times 27 over 1. There's no common factors between 27 and 5, so I just need to multiply straight across. 27 times 8. 8 times 7 is 56. 16 plus 5 is 21. So I get 216 over 5. Now I need to divide. 216 divided by 5. Bring down my 1. 5 goes into 16 3 times. Subtract, I have a remainder of 1, so that's 1/5. So 43 and 1/5 minutes remain for him to complete the test. I hope that helps. Let me know what questions you have. Thank you for watching.